She's one of the most controversial people in Charleston history. And now, Dr. Maria Goodloe-Johnson is talking exclusively to me about what really happened in Seattle, her time here as Charleston County Schools superintendent, and more in this edition of Quintin Reports. Dr. Johnson, can you explain who you are?
Sure. I am, I guess a lot of things. A mom, a career educator, a daughter, a wife, and I'm the former superintendent of Charleston County Schools.
Now, Dr. Johnson, you've been out the spotlight for a few months now. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I can't complain. I'm doing well. The time off has been great. It also gave me an opportunity to really take care of my mom, who was really very sick, but is actually doing very well now. So I'm doing good.
That is good to hear. Now, you went from mothering thousands of students in the Charleston County School District to mothering your own child. How's motherhood going?
It's going great. It's fun. It's busy. Children keep you young. My child is delightful. Of course, I guess most parents would say that. She's a lot of fun. She's always busy and active, and it's always something new every day. So I love it. It's good.
Well, tell me this. What do you know now about being a mother that you didn't know before?
I guess I would say, I don't know if it's what I didn't know, but it's just it's almost the psychology of parenting, that once you listen and understand your child, then it makes it easier, and it helps all around in communication and encouragement and all those things. So I think it's just the psychology of parenting and really living that and understanding day to day it changes all the time.
So what brought you back to Charleston?
Actually, this is our primary home. And my husband's family is here, so we have lots of family here. Unfortunately, though, what brought us back was my mom was very sick, and so I wasn't able to return. So it's actually a blessing that we had our home here.
That is good to hear. So tell me, and I'm curious about this,
okay,
what do you like most about Charleston?
I like a lot about Charleston. I love the food. I love the culture. I love the history, the people. It's a beautiful city. It's a beautiful, beautiful city. And every time we come home, we continue to see improvements. And it looks as though Charleston continues to improve. So we enjoy this city very much.
That is good to hear. Well, take me back to the first time when you heard that you were chosen to be the superintendent of Charleston County Schools. What was going through your mind?
That's interesting because I do remember that afternoon, probably late evening, not late evening, but late afternoon, early evening, because it was a very rigorous process. I believe it was like 3 days. We had an open community interview. It was televised. People asked questions downtown in the Gilliard with a huge audience. And then, and there were several other interviews and opportunities. And then we went back to the hotel and waited for the phone call, which was interesting. And so it gave you time to reflect and think. I was very excited. I very much wanted to be the superintendent, and it would be my first superintendency. And I'd already decided that if I didn't get the job, I wasn't going to apply for a while because it was just very, very stressful. It's like you're just waiting for that phone call, and the phone finally rings, and they offer you the job, and it was very, very exciting. I was thrilled.
Well, behind the scenes, what were those years like as superintendent of Charleston County Schools?
Very busy, lots of work to do. I'm very proud of the work that we did in the Charleston Plan for Excellence and really creating a curriculum and assessment system, putting a system and structures in place so that students could benefit. And we had some very strong achievement over those 4 years I was here. So I was excited about the work we were able to do. And I'm sure there's still work to be done.
Well, for those who don't remember, you left Charleston for a job in Seattle. What galvanized you? What led you to Seattle?
It was an opportunity I was recruited for. It was a different system, a different city. I had family there. They were doing much of the same work and wanted to do the work that we had begun in Charleston. So I was excited about the opportunity and the new challenge. So that was a lot of the reason.
So can you set the record straight? What really happened in Seattle?
So in Seattle, we did a lot of really good work. It was 3.5 years of a lot of reform. The initial board that hired me to do reform, and we did exactly that. And so change is hard. The other thing that happened is that there were a lot of really tough decisions that had to be made. Unfortunately, we had to close schools. No one likes for their school to be closed. It doesn't matter the reason. We had huge budget deficits, and we had to cut budgets. And we also began a brand new student assignment system. So there were lots and lots of changes and reform that happened. And that creates a lot of change and a lot of uncertainty. And the school board changed, I would say, 3 times while I was there. So that actually the board that hired me was not the board that was there when I left.
Okay. So, and having said that, what do you want to say to the people of Seattle?
That, first of all, I would love to say thank you, because there were a lot of people, a lot of businesses, communities, the philanthropic community, parents and teachers that really worked hard, because it's not a one-person initiative, but it's really a community and school initiative. And there are lots of great teachers and leaders and parents in Seattle that I really didn't get to say thank you to. And good luck, because I know that there's a strong foundation there in Seattle, and there was a lot of work that was done. And I want always the best for the children in every city.
So what do you miss about Seattle?
I miss the water. It's amazing. The greenery. It's a beautiful, beautiful city.
Oh, yes.
I do not miss the gray and the dreary. They have fabulous seafood there, too. Yeah. And Seattle is a very unique city that has great, unique neighborhoods.
Yes.
So it was always fun to do things in different neighborhoods and to visit different neighborhoods. There was always something to do. It's a great family-oriented city, and there was always something positive happening and something to go to. So all those were great things that I miss in Seattle.
You were very controversial here in Charleston and in Seattle. What was your secret to overcoming criticism?
I believe my secret is that decisions that I make are about children. And it's not a popularity contest, and you really have to weigh what's good for kids, because sometimes, a lot of times, other outside indicators can throw you off balance. And I always try to make sure I have all the data, very data-driven, that I know what the outcome is, what the direction is that's been given, and then you have to make those decisions. You can always do things better, you can always improve, but my guiding force is that we have to have strong educational systems for our children, and so that guides those decision makings, and that makes it easier when the criticism comes.
You were actually the first African American and the first woman superintendent of Charleston County Schools. When you think about it, what comes to mind?
I would say pride, regardless of whether we like it or not. The facts of being a female African American and the first will always be what people think about. So it does bring about a sense of pride, but it brings about a huge sense of responsibility.
Although you had criticism in Charleston, I talked with some people who used to work for you, and they had some great things to say about you. One person said she truly was making a difference in the Charleston County school system. Unfortunately, she did not have a chance to complete her mission. She had a vision that would excel us into academic excellence. Another person said she thought she did an excellent job in superintendent at Charleston County Schools. And she began to clean our house with people who were getting huge salaries to do nothing. And, you know, that began to make some people very angry at you. But you had to do what you had to do. And they wish you were still here. When you hear those comments, what do you say to those people?
Those are very nice to hear.
Yes.
It's hard to hear compliments, because I don't think of myself in that way. I think of myself in, I want to treat people in the same way that I want to be treated. So it's very flattering, and it's very nice to hear. It's nice to hear that feedback and that reflection about the time when I was here.
So what do you want to say to the people of Charleston?
That it's great to be back. It's been a fantastic welcome. We can't go hardly anywhere without people greeting us, being happy. We're glad you're back. Are you coming back? How are you doing? They have been absolutely wonderful. So it's always great to come home and to be here. And the welcome and the Southern hospitality is still in place. So that's nice.
Now, you mentioned initially about the Charleston Plan for Excellence. Looking back, do you think that was a success?
So I think it's always, the strategic plan in any city is always a work in progress. So we had many successes and we achieved many things, and my hope is that it's ongoing and that they continue to improve. You know, it's just like children, it's all about growth. Is the system better than it was when you came than when you left? And so I would say the answer was yes. Was it finished? No. I don't think it's ever finished. I think you have to continue to improve and make adjustments and continue setting the bar higher.
How about the Excellence for All in Seattle? Did that plan turn out to be successful, or is it still in progress like you said earlier?
It's still in progress. I would say in the third year of the plan that we had not made the academic achievement that the community and everybody wanted. But my guess was, and my estimation, that because we had to put foundations in place and because there was a lot more work to do, that it would take another year. So when I looked at the student achievement data this year, it was exactly what I expected, which was there was solid growth all across the city in every academic area except one. So it takes time and it takes patience, and that's hard because everybody wants it done yesterday, including me. But you have to put the time in, you have to put the structures and the expectations. It's complicated. And once you do that, then you can continue to build on that success.
When it comes to education, what's the difference between Charleston and Seattle?
What's the difference between Charleston and Seattle? When it comes to education, I would say I think geographically, I'm not sure, the quality and the expectations are different, but a lot of the same kind of similar work needed to be done. So Seattle was progressive in some ways, and in some ways they weren't progressive. So I would say they both have the same outcomes and the same aspirations for the children, but the work looked a little bit differently.
Yes.
But it was still about closing the gap for kids that were not achieving academically.
Okay, tell me, what do you think about the state of education right now?
The state, I would phrase it as a state of urban education,
Okay.
that we have a lot of work to do.
Sure.
And I don't know what it's going to take for people to understand that if we don't invest in our children now, we are going to suffer for it later. And that we have to close the gap. We have to hold ourselves accountable. We have to have the best teachers in the classroom. We have to have achievement goals for kids, as well as leaders, principals, superintendents, everybody, because we have to constantly improve, and we're not getting the job done across the board for all of our kids. And we can't keep doing the same thing we've always done and wonder why we're not making improvements. And it's not rocket science. We know what we need to do.
So what do you like best? Do you like public education or do you like private education, and why?
I like quality education. For me, it doesn't matter if it's public, if it's private, if it's charter, if it's Catholic. It doesn't matter, because the bottom line is when our kids grow up, nobody's going to care where they went to school. If it was public, private, charter, they're going to want to know, can they perform, can they function, can they compete? And it's a global competition. So we have to get over it's a charter school, it's a public school, it's a private school. How about equitable quality education for all kids? And how about let's learn from each other?
You know, as I was doing research for this interview, I was looking through the Post and Courier archives, and I saw someplace where you said that you're not a fan of constituent boards. Why is that?
I don't remember saying that. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know if I did or not. The more complexity you add to a governance system,
Sure.
I think the less you get done, because the more time it takes to manage relationships and work through that. And for me, it's about making quality decisions for kids. And a lot of times we let too many other things get in the way. So I just think that we need to be really clear and focused and targeted about the work that we're trying to do.
Now, judging by what you know right now, do you believe the Charleston County School District is moving into the right direction?
I would say yes. I believe it is. I believe they've continued to make progress.
Yes. When you think of Dr. McGinley, what comes to mind?
A very smart and talented educator that's passionate about children. I hired Dr. McGinley as my chief academic officer, so she definitely is very talented, and I believe she's passionate about the work for kids.
So tell me this, what is the future of Charleston County Schools?
I think that's a great question, and I don't know that I would have the answer, but I hope that the future of Charleston County Schools is that they continue to challenge themselves and to make sure that every single child that attends a school in Charleston County is getting exactly what they need to not meet standards, but to excel and to be successful when they graduate.
Now, do you really miss being superintendent of Charleston County Schools?
I do. I love the work. I'm very passionate about public education for students who don't have any other choice. So I believe it's up to the adults in the system to provide the avenues, to provide the tools and the strategies to be successful and to support families and to support children. And that's my passion and my love, and so I do miss it.
If you could be superintendent of Charleston County Schools again, what would you do differently?
It would all be about time and place. So what's in place, what works well, what doesn't work. I'd go about it in much the same way, and building on success and fixing what needed to be fixed and improving and holding the system accountable.
Although things didn't work out in Seattle, if you had a chance to go back and do it all over again, what would you do differently there?
I think that what I would do differently there is spend a lot more time having conversations with teachers. And you just, because of the environment, you have to spend a lot more time in the community, with the community, but especially with teachers.
Now, where would you like to be superintendent next and why?
And an urban system that wants a strong, passionate leader to facilitate change for kids.
Let me ask you this. What's your definition of a superintendent?
A superintendent is a leader that probably has the toughest job in America because it's complicated. People will always be mad at you. You will always have to make tough decisions. It's going to be a while before the economy turns around, so urban school systems will have to continue to make tough choices about cuts and about making good decisions about putting more money in the classroom so that students can succeed.
What's your favorite part of being a superintendent? And what's your least favorite?
The favorite part about being a superintendent is being in schools, being in classrooms, watching outstanding teachers teach, and watching the lights come on for kids.
Now tell me, what is the future of education as a whole?
That's a great question. I think that we're going to definitely have to do things differently for the future of education. I believe that there has to be a much larger investment for teacher professional development and support. There has to be accountability systems. I believe student growth has to be tied to teacher evaluations, and there has to be a support system so that all students are supported, that they're pushed to excel, and that we're meeting the needs of all of our students. I believe that students should be able to go, or should be able to go, to public schools and get art, music, and a second language. And have technology in the classroom. That's what it's going to take to be competitive globally. And if we don't do those things, we're going to find ourselves in a very different place as it relates to how educated our cities are and our children are, and their ability or lack of ability to compete.
Why is education so special to you?
I loved school. I had some of the best teachers in the world, elementary all the way through high school. My mom's a retired 42-year teacher, and I love school. I love learning. I love helping children grow.
Yes.
It's just a passion that I've always had.
For a young person that's watching this interview right now and they're discouraged about education, what's your advice to them?
I would say while you may be discouraged today, you won't be tomorrow. Always take a negative, always take the challenge and turn it into a positive. Never be afraid to ask for help. Never let anybody tell you you can't do something, because you can do anything that you're willing to work hard for, study for, and get help. So education is the key to success, and you will get out of it exactly what you're willing to put in it.
For those who don't know, how did you get involved in education in the first place?
Actually, when I was graduating as a high school senior, I didn't know if I wanted to be a psychologist or a teacher. So I actually went to a summer work experience program that was through the University of Nebraska Medical Center where my mother worked. And I actually spent a weekend in a mental hospital. At that time, they had institutions for adults as well as kids that were mentally challenged. And after I witnessed how adults as well as children were treated because of their lack of mental capability, I made my mind up that I was always going to teach, and I was always going to teach special ed, and I was going to work for those who didn't have access to equity, to quality, and to being treated fairly, those who don't have voice.
Describe to me the following in one word: education.
Essential.
Charleston.
Beautiful.
Seattle.
I would say beautiful again.
Being a mother.
Very exciting.
Children.
Rewarding.
Dr. Maria Goodloe-Johnson.
Passionate.
What's something that people don't know about you?
Good question. That I do like to have fun. That I'm a very nice person.
Now, what's something that you like to do in your free time?
I love to shop. I love to read. I love sporting events. I love watching my play soccer.
Yes.
Participate in gymnastics, go swimming. So there's a lot of things. Spend time with my family is important.
Now, you are a very influential person, but who is one person that you look up to and why?
There's so many. I mean, I look up to my mother. I look up to Maya Angelou. I look up to Michelle Obama. There are so many people that give so much to the world and influence the world in so many different ways. You always have to pay attention, I believe, because there's a lesson in everything. And I believe, and learned a long time ago, that I don't know if I'm influential or not, but definitely as a mentor, you're always mentoring people, and you'll mentor thousands of people that you never know. So it's always important about what you say and what you do and how you behave.
When people mention Dr. Maria Goodloe-Johnson, what do you want them to say?
That she did her very best when she was in Charleston, and she cared about kids.
Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes.